So there are obviously a lot of people that are out there that might still be struggling in some way. Maybe they're unemployed, or actually, interestingly, maybe there's a lot of people that maybe are actually doing very well, actually very, very well off financially. But at the end of the day, regardless of your financial situation, I think it's always really, really nice to be able to save money, which is what really inspired today's video, which we're really going to be talking about 7 things that I personally decided to stop buying that has helped to save me thousands and thousands of dollars over the years. And it's not just about how much money you've saved, but at the same time also by buying or stopping to buy a lot of these things, what it's also done is really help to be able to simplify life. In other words, in some indirect way, even improve the quality of life in some ways. So not only are we saving money, but we're also kind of saving time and saving, I guess you can say, mental room in that sense, because now we can spend that time and money onto other areas that are actually a lot more meaningful, which is what really inspired today's video. Now, before we go any further, I do want to make a notice is I think that at the end of the day, what we are not trying to do is just to try to spend no money at all and try to save every last single dollar, because there are still a lot of things that might actually have a lot of value to spend money on. And sometimes this stuff can be very, very subjective. For example, for me, some things that I don't buy are feminine products. I don't have a reason to buy feminine products. But similarly for other people, maybe they do need it. For me, I love to spend money on camera equipment because I enjoy filmmaking. There might be a lot of people that do not care about this. So for them, they stopped buying that stuff. But of course, all of this stuff, most of the stuff that I mentioned, I think is going to apply to a very wide demographic of people. So we are going to get right to it. But as always, real fast, before we begin and go any further, remember to smash the like button if you guys hopefully enjoy videos like this and to share support, or you can watch to the end and decide from there. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell for similar videos on finance, current events, econ, everything in that particular world. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, maybe personal thoughts, or maybe comment one thing that you stopped buying in the last couple of years in order to save money. So with that being said, let's get this video started. So the first thing that I really decided to cut spending over the last couple of years is really going to be eating out. Now, I think that it's really, really important to notice is that some of the things that we mentioned, they're not things that I necessarily stopped buying completely per se, but there's certainly things that I rarely ever buy now, unless there's a really particular set of circumstances for why I might want to buy, or maybe if I just want to treat myself to that something. And one of those things happens to be eating out, because I think the big inspiration for this is that because I remember the last couple of times when I decided to eat out, there would be many moments where we would end up getting a shocking bill tab, especially after all of the inflation hiking situation here in New York City, where sometimes now, in order to get a reasonable, even a Chinese, dinner is almost $20 now. Getting Korean food sometimes can cost as much as $40 per person. So when I see how much money is being stacked up, and the fact that minimum wage in New York City is still $15 per hour, and probably even less if you happen to be outside the city, it just doesn't always feel like it's something feasible to kind of consistently afford anymore. So I still do eat out occasionally there and there. There are times where you might have to go on a date, there might be special occasions, there might be times where you're getting together with a friend, celebrating a holiday, a birthday party of some kind. But it's very, very rare today compared to back 5 years ago that I'm ever going to just sit in a restaurant to eat for its sake anymore compared to it once was. Especially because even if I had to take out food and eat it at home, off of that logic, I'm already saving a lot of things such as like time and certainly even money in terms of tips. You're now saving about 15 to 20% off of the tip, which slowly adds up and becomes a lot of money. But of course, other things are going to help hopefully save even more money. So the next thing that I actually really cut out over the years that I rarely ever spend money on, and I think this is something that in the last 1 year, I've probably admittedly only spent maybe like 2 or 3 times I bought this, and it really has to do with Uber and Lyft rides. And it's because, now this one's obviously subjective, so if it doesn't apply to you, feel free to skip to the next one. There's going to be timestamps. But for me, at least, one of the biggest things that I've noticed is that Uber is really, really expensive, simply put it that way. And for me, being someone that grew up and currently still lives in New York City to this day, what's really nice is that if you live in a city that has hopefully reasonable public transportation, I think a lot of times the difference between the amount of money that you can save by simply taking public transportation in many cases is well worth it compared to the amount of money you'll save if you were to start taking Uber or Lyft. And certainly the amount of money that you're going to save compared to if you now actually own a car where now you have to pay for things like gas, insurance, bills, maintenance, repairs, everything, parking, everything in that world. And I think this is actually one of the most greatest things or greatest expense that has really saved me probably the most amount of money, because by not having a car and by rarely taking an Uber, this has probably saved me over thousands and thousands. I wouldn't even be shocked. I mean, the cost of a car is like $10,000 to $20,000. So that's already $10,000 to $20,000 saved off of this spot. But with all of that stuff combined, it's just simply put is a lot of money. And to this day, I still see a lot of people that will spend money on things like Ubers. Cars is a little bit more subjective again, because I know if you live in like the middle of nowhere or a suburb, you probably need it. But for people that live in a city, it could be a very, very big, massive difference. So that's going to be the second thing. Now, the third thing that might come as a little bit of a surprise, unless you hear a little bit of a description or explanation to it, that I really stopped buying, is going to be books. And I think this is going to be an interesting one, because especially if you are someone that's active in the finance community or econ or anything in that world, you will probably hear a lot of people that will talk about things like buying books. You know, in order to be successful, you have to read a lot, which is not completely true, but of course that's a debatable topic for another day. But the big idea is that because we have so many digital ways to consume information these days, ranging from things such as free knowledge off of the internet, my YouTube channel, welcome, consider subscribing if you guys haven't, done so already, other YouTube channels, media, news, articles. But even if you had to read a physical book, they still have a lot of things like Amazon Kindle, Nooks, a lot of ways that you can read the same text from books these days, so you don't have to buy the physical book anymore, and you can save lots of money and certainly a lot of resources, and also a lot of room inside of your bedroom. You're going to be able to save so that now all of that space that you normally need to store your books, you can use it to store other products. So you're not just saving money, but you're also saving room in real estate in that logic. And again, books can add up. There's people that literally have a room full of just books, and that's something that's saved a lot of money. The next thing that I really have saved a lot of money on is really going to be more of like something that I just don't buy as much of, is going to be full price clothing. And I think that it's because today the clothing industry has been really, really impacted by everything that's going on online with e-commerce. So as a result, I think one of the biggest things is that it is very, very rare these days I'll ever buy clothing at full price. I think because of that reason. But there's even certain kinds of clothing, such as like t-shirts, that I really actually buy, because if you are someone that's relatively active in your community, there are so many, many events, charities, fundraisers, things that go on where they actually donate or even just give out free t-shirts, free clothing, free gear, free outfits, and all that kind of stuff. There are obviously some things that you rarely can get for free, such as like nice jeans, I think pants really, but things such as like t-shirts, a lot of top gear, that stuff, I think there's a lot of ways to save money from it today. The next one is going to be a little bit harder to say, just because for me, I happen to work in the industry outside of this. For some of you guys may or may not know, but outside of this, I work in the film and the events industry. So it's really going to be DVDs and movies. So this one's a little bit harder to say, especially because I work in this industry. But it's really just because these days, people can consume media and entertainment, through a lot of free ways or through streaming websites. And because of that reason, I think that one of the biggest ways that people have saved money is by not having to pay for things such as like DVDs, Blu-ray players, and even TV cable. That one's a little bit subjective because it depends on what you like to watch, but I know a lot of people that have even already officially cut cable because they can consume entertainment in other ways as well. Now, the sixth thing that I've really managed to save a lot of money, and this one, of course, is going, I will admit this one's going to vary person to person, but it's going to be certain kinds of healthcare products. Or in my situation, I would probably say skincare. And the real reason for this is really just because, and I know you might, might be wondering, it was like, well, don't you pay money for skincare? It's like, maybe that's the reason why you look the way you do. But the reason why I tell people that is really just because I think that if you're someone that hopefully has health insurance, there's a lot of different health insurance plans that actually can cover many things that I think a lot of people don't always fully take advantage of. And one of them actually happens to be skincare products. There's a lot of people I know that spend hundreds, even thousands of dollars on skincare products every single year. And I think that one of the biggest things is that if your insurance hopefully can cover a visit to the dermatologist, they can also often prescribe you with skincare related products for free, or certainly incredibly discounted than what would have been if you decided to go out there to buy your own skincare products from cosmetic shops. Like, does Sephora sell skincare? I don't know, but if they do, but certainly things like department stores, Macy's, drugstores, Duane Reade, Walgreens, all of those stores, this is a really, really great way to save money. And depending on how luxurious you go with your skincare products, potentially hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And then the last thing that I think has really helped me to save a lot of money is going to be hotels. And I think this one's also a little bit more interesting because this is not necessarily something that I've cut completely from my budget, but it is something that I rarely ever buy, because I think these days a lot of times when I feel like, when it comes to like hotels, when it comes to traveling, a lot of times I think that many people really just use the place that they live as kind of like a living hub to sleep. So if you aren't already spending a lot of time in your hotel anyway, it might be worth it to maybe decide instead to try to get a hostel. This one obviously depends on comfort levels, because I know some people maybe have a health related condition, they can't live with a lot of people, maybe they just don't feel comfortable living with other people. But because of that reason, it is something that's relatively subjective. I made it the last item for a reason. But if you can do it, especially if you're relatively young, I think hostels can be an incredible way to save money, and also to meet potentially new friends and new solo travelers and new people through this. And I think that's one of the coolest things about saving money through this. But of course, with that being said, that hopefully covers 7 things that I decided to stop buying to maybe live a little bit more minimalistic and try to save lots of money, if not thousands, if not over tens of thousands of dollars with it. But of course, feel free to comment maybe something you stopped buying to save money as well. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, remember to smash the like button if you guys hopefully enjoyed it. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.